I've received a lot of compliments on a few of the other builds I made for my Marvel Cinematic Universe and Lego, so I thought I'd show off how I designed some of these. This is the Bifrost Bridge that I built for the Thor films. It is mostly transparent glass pieces. What I did was I have 4 rows of clear pieces for the most part. Every once in a while I'd include a different colored piece to switch it up, but so there's 4 rows of the clear glass pieces and then 5 rows of these mixed and matched different colored pieces that change as it goes up to give it kind of a rainbowy look to it. And then on the edge I made borders of less transparent glass pieces, and then on the sides I just added these little designs. If you watch in the movies, there's these little towers that stand up along the bridge. These aren't exactly the same, but I just wanted to add something that looked sort of like how it did in the movie, but I was really going for this to look as close as I could, and I think it turned out pretty well, and there's been a lot of good feedback on how it looks, so I'm glad those that have liked it have liked it. So along with Thor's Stormbreaker axe, I actually made his Mjolnir hammer first. This was kind of just a random Saturday project that I put together, but enjoyed it. So the way I did the caps here on the end, they're facing different directions to kind of give that curved look, is there's an axle running through here, and so I just slid one of those pieces that lets the axle slide through but also has a connecting piece on the other side, and you can just cap it on. There you go. For the handle, it's not as sturdy as I would have liked. If I could go back and redo it, I'd make this axle longer, but there's a couple axles running through the handle here to make it much sturdier than the pieces by themselves. And then I also added this for the back part, just a little connector of old Technic pieces. Those are always very sturdy to keep things together, so I added those on to hold them all together, so when there's gaps in the axles, they're still being held together by the Technic pieces. So the axle just slides right in here. Booyah! Mjolnir. Now the rest of Mjolnir, the hammer, it's mostly just a box in here. The axle slides into a hole, and there's a few more of these on the inside to keep it anchored down. But pretty much the rest of it is just a rectangle going around that. So it's an empty space in the middle. But you could fill it in and it'd make it a lot heavier and sturdier. Like I said, this was just kind of a weekend project that I whipped together, and after I finished this I went on to Stormbreaker, so it was fun and worth it. Now I built this particular item for my Ant-Man scene. It's Thomas the Tank Engine. I had never ever imagined I would build Thomas the Tank Engine, but then I made that scene with Ant-Man fighting Yellow Jacket, and they're small and they're on that train track. So what I did was I have these 6 tires that came from that big rolling tank from Clone Wars. I don't know what it's called, but it's a giant tank that has like 10 of these wheels. So I used 6 of them, made a little frame underneath to keep the wheels sturdy and together, built this front bumper of sloped red and blue pieces that lead up to the main body. Now this is just a big brick, essentially, of brick pieces all put together. And then on the face I just gave him little eyes with a round white piece with a tiny black stud in the middle, and then this little curved piece as his smile. Gave him a few decorations, and then I added this back part so I could hook other compartments on. So if you watch the actual scene from my compilation video, you'll see that as Thomas comes and he hits Yellow Jacket, it derails and the other carts fall off as well. So that's what I did with Thomas. I don't know if I've ever seen anyone build a Thomas the Tank Engine out of Lego. It is a unique decision to do if you ever want to try it. Here is my version of Iron Man's Mark 1 from when he escapes the terrorists at the beginning of Iron Man 1. So I added these little flames on when I was doing the actual filming part. But Iron Man or Tony Stark could sit right in here, and this little hatch closes up, and the little white piece is supposed to be his arc reactor showing through. The arms can move. The legs have a little movement to them, but they're mostly just there so that he can stand steady. So I made them big and wide so that he would be as sturdy as he stood there. And then for the head, what I used was an old Iron Man 3 set that came with the Mandarin and War Machine. The War Machine helmet is what I used here because it was just all gray and had a steel look to it, so I just fit it on there to be the head. But that's what I used to make Iron Man Mark 3 or Iron Man Mark 1. And the legs are hooked on to this main body part just by hooking them on like that with those pieces that switch angles, switch directions. So it's pretty straightforward. It's only about 30 pieces altogether to make this same model. So if you watch this whole thing, you could probably reverse engineer it yourself. But it was fun to build this little thing, and it's too bad they don't have an official Iron Man Mark 1. But Marvel and Lego weren't really making sets for the movies back then, so it makes sense. There it is.